All this week, Off the Ball is teaming up with the Irish Blood Transfusion Service to get people talking about the importance of blood donation. 1 in 4 of us will need a transfusion in our lifetime. So this could be you, it could be someone in your family, a friend or a neighbour. For more details on how to give blood, get on to offtheball.com/IBTS, as in Irish Blood Transfusion Service, or go to giveblood.ie. Tom Dunne is on the way after 10 o'clock and he's popped into studio very aptly because of that read, and we've been doing things with the Irish Heart Foundation as well. So you're knocking around the building, and we thought, well, if we're doing both those things...
I tick both boxes.
Yeah, and probably not in a way you ever thought you would.
No, definitely not. Even going in for this, I knew I was going in to have aortic replacement surgery, which is pretty big, but in the preamble, they said you won't be getting a blood transfusion. We kind of pride ourselves on that because there are certain risks involved with blood transfusions, and when we talk about the limited number of people who can give blood, there's lots of potential risks. So they're saying you won't be getting blood. But then when I came to a week later, they told me I'd had 4 pints. So I'm not sure exactly what went on during the surgery, but obviously something that wasn't quite expected. So they wanted to tell me that because they were saying the night that I had the 4 pints of blood, the national supply was down to 1 day, with 1 day's supply of blood in the country. So they operate on a very fine margin.
Do we ever get to points where there's shortage?
I kind of don't want to know
no supply
anymore. I doubt it. I think 1 day might have been as low as it's ever been. And the person who was telling me this was saying that it's a very small percentage of the population who can actually give blood. There are lots of things that will disqualify you from giving blood. One of them is having lived and worked in England. And there's an awful lot of Irish people who've lived and worked in England. So it's kind of more important that those who can give blood do so. I heard a very small percentage. I heard 3%, which I can't believe. I'm wondering, was it the morphine? Did I not hear things correctly? And I could be wrong.
I'm suddenly feeling very guilty because I don't know if I can give blood or not. And I just assume, well, we're fine. There's bound to be enough people out there doing it.
Yeah, I thought that as well. But I must say, the 1 day shocked me. It really did.
That's surprising.
It seems very tight.
For people who didn't see your Late Late Show interview, if you were to kind of give a Spark Notes version of your story. Last October, everything was A-OK. You went to see your cardiologist. In short...
wasn't quite A-OK.
They found a heart murmur about 10 years ago, and you were told, let's keep an eye on this heart murmur, and let's go back for annual checks. And for reasons I'm not quite sure, you did that for about 7-8 years, and then you were feeling so well that you skipped 2 years, and Audrey, your wife, said, you know what, let's go back and check that out. And you didn't get the usual chummy chat with the cardiologist. No.
First time I met him 10 years ago, we talked mostly about the REM gigs in the Olympia. You know, it was just he'd been at them, and we talked. He was delighted to have someone to talk about music with. And then he'd say, this won't kill you, be no doubt about that. This genetic defect in my heart won't kill you, but you will have to have surgery at some point. And that shocked me, but the at some point always seemed to stay very far in the future. Every time I went along, it still seemed to be about 5 years minimum before I was going to be having surgery. So I became blasé is the only... but once I went and he said, don't come back next year, come back in 2 years. And when I went back in 2 years, it was still fine. So there was just a bit of me thinking, this could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. And that made me a bit lax. And I think the reason, I was just thinking about it recently, I think the reason Audrey was twisting my arm is we were on holidays, and the restaurant was on the top of a hill, and every night at the top of the hill, I had to just tell them to wait for a minute, just, slow down there for a second. And I saw her looking at me once or twice, and I was just thinking, it's a hill. What do you expect? The kids are out of breath too. It's not just me. But she got more insistent, and I went along then immediately after Féile. 4 days after the 2 Féile gigs, I was in with the cardiologist. And this time he wasn't as jovial. He said, your figures have moved. I used to have moderate stenosis, which is a stiffening of the valve, and now I had severe stenosis. So he introduced the surgeon to the equation in a very casual way. You should meet him. it sounded like a social thing almost, you know. So I went into that meeting very casually, thinking we would talk about surgery in general, and I might schedule it for a year or 2 years or something like that. But instead he said 4 to 6 weeks. And then he told me the immortal line, you have a 70% chance of dying in the next 2 years. That had my total attention. That came from nowhere. I simply couldn't believe I was hearing that. And I went home with that news. I could see Audrey's face darkening and just, suddenly it was right on our doorstep.
It's scary.
You know? Yeah, it had come from, it seemed nowhere. And the next few weeks, that was the 13th, I got chest pains then over the weekend. I'm sure that was stress. But I had to go into A&E. I couldn't take a risk.
No.
And A&E was grim, as it always is. More frightening. I mean, they couldn't have been more professional. The care was wonderful. So 2 nights in there, and they were saying, independent cardiologists were saying, you know, severe stenosis, chest pains, you're going to have to get your head around the fact that you're having surgery soon. So the next few weeks were grim. It was scheduled for November the 15th, and they sent out a list of what to expect and how to get yourself ready. So you have to get a certificate from your dentist that your mouth is safe. Did that. No slippers. I don't own a pair. I don't own pajamas. So there's all these kind of sly shopping trips where you didn't want the kids to know why you're stockpiling this stuff. Did all that, and then there was checking into the hospital, which was really tough.
It must be very surreal.
It is surreal. It's like it's not happening to you.
It's happening. Like,
no.
Lots of us have had surgery on your heart. You know, that's not.
You can't
that's not
dwell
just
on it.
Surgery,
You know, and it's going in through your chest. They go through the sternum to do this, which
you're cracked open.
Yeah, you can't dwell on it. You just can't.
And were you able to not dwell on it?
Yeah, I was going in. I had total faith in the team. My cardiologist was great. The surgeon is probably one of the leading surgeons in the world. He's James McCarthy. Yeah. Brilliant. And everybody was saying, I don't know if you remember, John Healy used to come in and do different pieces for us during the day from the restaurant. They did a heart transplant on John Healy. John Healy has a new heart, thanks to James.
So you kind of figure out, well, I'll be okay.
This guy knows what he's doing, yeah. But when you're checking in, though, the surreal thing of you have to have your body hair removed and you have to take a mad shower and this very stringent stuff.
Do you kind of almost, I feel like I would feel my stomach would be off. I feel I'd be getting shakes at times. I feel I'd just be chronically nervous.
For whatever reason, none of that happened. I remember going in and the person checking me in was more upset than I was. And they were saying to me, you're going to be angry. And I was saying, why am I going to be angry? And they said, because you're well now and you won't be well in a few days. And I remember thinking, oh God. So I just kept blocking it from my mind. Now, you do take a Xanax, which I'm sure helps. But then I got a sleeping tablet. I had another one of those weird showers. And then the doctor came in, this Dr. Muhammad came in, and he said, I will bring you down safely, and I'll bring you back safely. And they were very reassuring words. And that was it. You know, I went into I don't remember much else. I don't remember getting the needle. I don't remember going under. The next thing.
Do you know, or have you? Yes, I mean, 6 days later.
Yeah,
sorry, I could have crossed that. You don't expect to re-emerge 6 days later.
No.
Do you know what went wrong, or have you asked why you needed 4 pints of blood?
I know one thing that went wrong was my kidneys failed, and I had to have dialysis, and that complicated everything. I don't know what else happened. Other things must have happened. I came out of it and I met Audrey, and
I would want to know.
Yeah, I don't yet want to know.
It feels too close.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
I'd had really bad dreams during the surgery, and they were terrifying. And when I came out of it, I saw Audrey, and there was something inside me that said, I'm not going to tell her about the dreams. And I think at the same time she was thinking, I'm not going to tell him about the 6 days. So even once or twice I've lightly broached it, and she said, no, not yet.
As in the content of the...
Yeah, what went on. Yeah. It's a two-way street. I'm not telling her about the nightmares, and she doesn't want to talk about the 6 days. So I didn't know that Ireland had beaten the All Blacks for weeks afterwards. Weeks.
You should have delayed the surgery.
I thought somebody would have told me.
I thought the first thing you'd be told.
Yeah, it seemed.
Tom, Ireland had beaten the All Blacks, and you're okay.
Yeah, you may have been out of it, but guess what happened while you were out?
And they were great. God, frightening.
Yeah, it was. That's when I got rattled.
Did the nightmares continue?
They did a little bit, but nothing like those ones.
It's amazing you can remember them.
Yeah.
Do people tend to remember what they dreamt about in surgery?
Yeah, we were Googling it, and the nightmares are a big part of your body dealing with the trauma.
Okay.
Because I think your brain is going, this isn't right. They split up my chest, and they've stopped my heart. This is as big a threat to me as you can get. You know, your body is just thinking, you're bringing me very close to the edge.
Yeah, I thought one of the great things you talked about on the Late Late Show, because I was speaking to someone recently who had heart issues as well, and they said a year on, they were like, I still haven't processed everything. I still feel fragile mentally. And you talked on the Late Late Show about how almost, abhorrent's too strong a word, but you almost feel detached from this scar on your body. Like, this is my body. A couple of months ago it was fine, and now the scar is, well, it's big naturally, and that's probably a traumatic thing to come to terms with.
Yeah, it makes it very real. There's times when you almost forget it, because I feel great. It was a very successful surgery, but then you just have a shower and you see this, and it feels. You feel deformed. You feel ugly. You're looking at this, and there's 2 drain holes under it as well that are bloody huge too. They're not gone away yet. And I know the first time I saw all that was when a nurse said, you should try and get a shave or something to make yourself feel better. It's the very first day back up. And that was when I saw I had 2 holes in my neck from the dialysis. They take that through the carotid artery. And I was looking at myself, and I really got that sense of, God, you've been in the wars.
Yeah. I think that's a very powerful thing, especially for, you know, a man to admit, I feel ugly with it, because it can seem so trivial, like, you know, you almost died, don't worry about your vanity. But if it's how you feel, it's how you feel, and you won't be the only person who would have felt like that.
No, it's a big sense of who you are, and yeah, it's funny, I think when you look in a mirror, you see all the same ages of yourself. You see yourself as a child and as an adult. You've watched yourself growing up.
You don't notice all the differences sometimes.
No.
Not as violent as this.
Yeah.
A change.
You're looking, I think, saying, what's someone have to do to my body? It's, you know, it's harsh. But it's necessary, I suppose, is the bottom line.
Well, I saw you say, if you'd been born maybe a generation ago, you'd have had maybe 2 years.
Yeah. The kids would have been 11 and 13 when I'd be checking out. That wouldn't be good.
That's very scary stuff.
Yeah, it is, It's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I've been getting a lot of emails and texts from people in similar situations. And sometimes there are people who didn't get a warning, you know, had a heart attack. Now they've survived the heart attacks. But that's a bad way to go into hospital. My heart, because I delayed, had done a bit of damage to the stem behind the aorta, so they had to replace that as well.
Okay.
If I'd gone a year ago, they wouldn't have had to replace that, so it would have been a lesser surgery. And then there's people who have heart attacks and won't make it, and that's frightening, it really is. And it's all in your 50s, that's when it kicks in. So you could have led a perfectly normal life up to that.
Right.
And then you're going to be in trouble if you're not careful. It's 1 in 50 have something like this.
Right. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of people listening right now.
It seems big to me. When I heard that number, I was looking around crowds and thinking, there's 200 people here, that's 4 people.
And aside from your, you know, bit of breathlessness at the top of a steep stairs, which, even if that happened to me, I would just put it down to, God, I'm getting old.
Yeah, exactly.
There were no major symptoms, there were no big warning signs?
No, nothing at all.
Okay. So there's no harm if you can afford it or find a way to do it to go and get...
Even a doctor
can
check you, yeah.
Okay.
It becomes very audible. The valve isn't performing properly, and there's a back flush. There's blood going backwards in the aorta, and that creates a sound, and it's a very recognisable sound. So early days when you're young, it's hard to pick up. But by your 30s and 40s, it's any doctor will pick that up. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think it's had a change on your outlook on life, or do you quickly switch back to living your life the way you did?
I don't think I've processed it yet. I think that's where it stands. I think I'm so delighted to be back healthy again. Wrestling with the kids is one of my all-time joys.
It's amazing, yeah, because I saw you say that there's no big restrictions now. Your lifestyle's not changed.
Do whatever I want.
Amazing.
Yeah. But even more so, like I can run. I could do a marathon. Lots of people do marathons. Physically, I'm not limited in what I can do.
So if you were to treat the next 30, 40 years as bonus...
It is a bit of a bonus.
Maybe you should do an old bucket list, which is a less grim connotation.
Yes. I'm still processing it. It happened so quickly.
Will you go and talk to a psychologist, or will you talk to anyone about this?
I wouldn't mind, because the whole experience was very shocking.
Yeah.
And
over quite a quick period.
Yeah. Quite a quick period, yeah. Those dates, they're etched in my mind at this point. I think it's been a lot to take on board.
Yeah, probably in ways
physically, I'm going to physio very soon. They say it's very important to build up your body confidence again. I'm looking forward to that. But I think mentally, there's a lot of... I wouldn't mind talking to you. Yeah. The dreams were horrific.
Well, it's amazing. That's a few times you mentioned the dreams.
Yeah, when I got back as well to the house, they came back to a degree when I was in the house. Yeah. And that was watching TV and thinking it's 11 o'clock, I don't want to go to bed. And just trying to put it off, and then around 12 going, I'm going to have to go to bed, and hating it.
Yeah. Have you told anyone what's in the
No.
dreams? Yeah, no, I would talk to someone about it.
Yeah. Oh, they were very threatening. They were life or death.
Yeah.
I felt threatened in them, and I was kind of going, how have I've come in so professionally, how have I ended up in the dream? It was very, slapped. There were people deliberately not helping me and stuff. And,
oh, God.
Well, they wouldn't give me water as well. And I remember when the nurse was offering me ice cream, I then asked for a glass of water, and a bit of me was expecting her to say no.
Because the dreams.
Yeah.
Wow. Listen, thanks for coming in and sharing all that with us. And it's great to have you
sharing back. It is coming to terms with it.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
and also telling people to get their hearts checked.
Well, 100%.
Yeah.
Give
blood.
Yeah, and being back in the radio must seem like a nice
dream.
Enjoyable.
A dream to be listening to music again and playing it.
Yeah.
Oh, bring it on.
Wouldn't it be terrible if you woke up and suddenly all that stuff that you loved seemed trivial and unimportant and a waste of time?
Yeah, I'm happy to say the total opposite was true. I came out of it thinking, I really appreciate my life. I love my family. I love music. I love singing. I love the band. I feel very privileged to have the life I have. And to get back to it is just, it's like winning the lottery. So
probably a sign of a life well lived, because these moments can provoke a complete change. I'm going to do something totally different. Yeah. What have I been doing X, Y, and Z in my life? I'm going to do this. No. So maybe it's a good sign that
I'm not feeling that at all. I wonder now if I'd never gone into music, if I'd stuck at engineering, would I have had the same reaction?
Audrey, I'm starting a band, he said.
Probably definitely would have started a band, yeah.
Yeah. I used to give blood regularly when I was younger, had kids, etc. Then life got busy, went back to try 2 years ago, but iron was low, so I couldn't give. Really important to donate. I've done it 20 times. I would love to do more. I used to encourage more people to do it, says Shane in Galway. So that tallies with your point that actually there are restrictions.
Yeah, Peter, the English thing is huge. It's mad cow disease, which is prevalent in England.
Is that it?
Yes. So that has contaminated the blood supply there, and
of a generation or two.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's an issue for us.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah.
What music, what a lovely question. Peter and Drumcondra, what music did Tom listen to during recovery?
I had two of the funniest nights of my life. They were giving me very powerful drugs, morphine. And at first I thought this is...
A brief tangent.
Yeah.
What's morphine like?
Trippy. So I was having what I can only call fantastic hallucinations. So I knew they were coming. So I went for the White Album, it has been reissued. But the real gem was Kate Bush's back catalogue.
Right.
And I was listening to that in a parallel universe.
Oh, I'd say.
It really was very enjoyable.
Oh my God, that's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
They'd hook you up to it, and you were stuck with it for 3 hours. So
the dialysis or the morphine?
The morphine.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
So I just had to go, look, I might as well enjoy this.
And would it last for the rest of the day then?
Yeah. There was a party going on in the room next to me for the first 2 days.
Right.
People singing songs. And twice I asked nurses, what's the story with the party? And twice they looked at me saying, what do you want about it? And that was, I could listen to the songs they were singing and the songs they were playing. And I was Googling one at one point. It was an old World War II song. So, but it was as real to me as you are in this room.
Wow. It sounds as well like you took the The staff were incredible boxes as well.
They were amazing.
Everyone who goes through something like this comes out and says, you're just in their hands, literally.
And they were so good. They were just so good. And I'd be calling them during the night, and they just come in full of reassurance and confidence, and this is usual, don't worry about it. And they were brilliant.
Yeah, great people who do it.
Oh, so professional.
Listen, I've taken up enough of your time. I think you've more than got the message out, and you're on the way in about an hour's time. What's coming up?
2 hours of blissful music. Ryan Adams has returned. His new new single is great. And my favourite, Jenny Lewis, probably the only person in the world who's mad about her, but I think she's great also. The female Elvis Costello. And new stuff from Vampire Weekend, and there's loads of great stuff going around. I'm catching up on it all because there was 2 months there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Listening to a lot of it.
A last text in. Great to hear the discussion with Tom. I had my aortic valve replaced in 2016. Changed my life completely. Now I grab life with both arms. Got out of an awful relationship and did all the positive things I should have done before. I hate the scar too, but life is great. From another Tom.
I hope the scar will die down. I've seen people which have had it 10 or 15 years or 5 years.
It must do.
It seems to just disappear at the moment. It's red raw, and I started wearing vests. Never thought I would. So when I got out of hospital, I threw out the slippers and the pajamas as well. They went in the bin.
You're not a pajama man?
No.
Okay.
No.
I won't ask.
Fight the fight.
Okay.
Ramones t-shirt.
Good man. Right, Tom Dunne on the way after 10. We got the football show next.